Okay, it's 6:05. Try to get things rolling. Can you hear me, Gil?
Yes, I can.
Okay. Hi, everybody. Thank you for joining us tonight on our webinar presentation on managing the technical area. We have Gilbert Rosario here to help speak on the topic, so that way we can get some more information. Just a few housekeeping things. There is some technical difficulties going on with both Gil and I's computers. Gil unfortunately lost power, so please be patient if we experience some technical issues during this whole process. If you have any questions during Gil's presentation, there is a Q&A feature at the bottom of your screen. Go ahead and type in the Q&A box if you have a question. We will get to it at the appropriate time within the presentation. It looks like we have some people trickling in, but we'll go ahead and get started because we are a little bit behind schedule. I'm gonna try to keep this to around an hour, just so that way everybody can get back. I know it's dinner time for some people, so we don't want to keep you too long. Again, please utilize that Q&A feature if you have a question about the presentation. If you have a question regarding registration or the test or anything like that, please save that to the end and I will answer your questions at the end. Thank you for being here, Gil. Look forward to your presentation.
Okay, thank you very much. Everyone, I apologize. I think I live in a third world country. It's called Tampa. We lost power. So if you look, I'm working with a little flashlight. Thank God for technology. I'm able to use my cell phone as a hotspot, as long as we don't lose any cell signal. So without any further ado, let's just get started. What we're going to be discussing is managing the technical area. This NFHS defines the technical area as the team bench area, whether there is the technical area, according to the book, is the team area shall extend from 10 yards on each side of the halfway line for a distance of 20 yards, and each area should be marked by a solid line. Coaches, bench personnel, team members shall be restricted to the team area. Now, we all know that everybody marks their technical line. No, they don't. So what we normally do in our association is we say where your benches are, that is your technical area. You're allowed to, stray from that, bench area just a few yards. So hopefully that helps other people. There are exceptions to the rule. One is, and I've actually done games where they've done this, is where the teams are on opposite sides of the field. Just remember that the team benches have to be placed on a diagonal across from each other. When it comes to managing that and doing substitutions, your side referee 1 and side referee 2, they both have that responsibility going forward. And the other exception to that is that a team member may leave the bench area to warm up prior to becoming a substitute. Typically, the technical area is on one side, okay, of the field, while spectators generally occupy the other side. The coach, other team officials, for example, assistant coaches, managers, trainers, etc., as indicated on the roster, are required to behave responsibly. Players and substitutes are not considered team officials. Why is this important to know the difference? Well, it involves how misconduct is treated in the technical area, and we'll cover this later. What do coaches want from a referee? They want us to keep the game safe. They want us to be consistent. They want us to know the NFHS soccer rules. They want us to be professional in charge of the game. In other words, be firm, be fair, and be calm. And of course, they want us to allow their players to play the game the way they planned it. So I have a definition of confrontation. It is to come face to face with defiance or hostility. Confrontation can occur pre-game, during the game, and post-game. Remember, all officials should be approachable before, during, and after the game where appropriate. Proper communication with coaches can lessen confrontation. As always, be fair, be firm, and be calm. You must maintain your composure at all times. Once you lose your composure, you have lost your ability to manage the game. Now, in terms of pregame, how to use preventive refereeing to limit confrontation? Be at the field at least 30 minutes prior to the game. Okay? We are all paid professionals. Therefore, if we act professionally and do our assigned duties, that part of the confrontation should be lessened. Check the field, determine what corrections the home team coach will need to implement. You get there 30 minutes ahead of time and you check out the field and so forth and so on, and you tell the coach, this needs to be corrected, then there should be no confrontation. Everybody is on the same page. Ensure step goals are properly anchored. And check and adjust the balls with gauges and pumps. These are all our responsibilities. And we have to do this within that 30-minute allotted time. Meet with each coach. First appearance of everything. How you look when you approach coaches sends a strong message about your professional approach to their game. If you show up to a game with your shirt untucked, your socks down, what are they going to think? This is a referee, so, look the part. Be in full uniform, introduce yourself and your referee team. Now, I know with COVID going on, that's not possible, but you can still, say hello to the coach and so forth. And when you get the roster, confirm only bench personnel are listed on the roster are in the team area. Indicate the limits of the technical area, team area. For example, on those fields where, like I said, it's never happened to us in our association, where they don't have the technical area lined off like they're supposed to, we say, that's your team bench, that is your team area. Try to remain within that technical area. One thing that's important is spend the same amount of time with each coach. The worst thing you can have is a referee crew that spends 30 minutes with one coach, and you can tell they're very familiar and so forth and so on, and they spend 2 minutes with the opposing coach. Well, guess what? Do you think there's favoritism going on? Yes. So act that part as professional. Pre-game conference, meet with your referee crew. Remember, all this stuff has to be done in that 30-minute time frame. Clearly state your tolerance. If you're the center referee, direct your SR1 and SR2 exactly how you want to handle any confrontation, any dissent, and so forth. State the procedure for you to come over and deal with the coaching staff. During the game, consistency. Start the game on time. There should be no excuse not to start the game on time. If the whole crew's on the field 30 minutes before game time and they handle all the issues, then there should be no delay in starting the game. Follow established NFHS mechanics and rules. Okay? Not college rules, not IFAB or rec rules. You need to know the rules for their game. Communicate with the coaches in a variety of ways. You can use your voice, and you can use the SRs. SR1 techniques for dealing with coaches. The SR1 is usually the bench official. And me personally, some of my best games have been because of my SR1, and some of my worst games have been because of my SR1. So you need to know, who you're dealing with, and you have to be able to support them in that role. SR1, when a coach starts, going off, just, a well-placed smile might calm things down. Provide enough space for the coach to vent. Develop a plan to handle technical areas without overreacting. I mean, gotta remember, soccer is an emotional sport, and there were times where you gotta let them bend a little bit. Impose a positive principles when needed, and create a perception you are treating both coaches equally. The worst thing that can happen to any referee crew is where one team feels that you are not being fair. And that needs to be corrected if that does happen. The side referee can also be the peacemaker on the bench. He could be a sounding board for the coach, but not a verbal punching bag. He or she should maintain concentration on the field. Prolonged interactions with bench personnel should be avoided because your primary responsibility is the game. If communication is necessary with bench personnel, it is suggested that communication be short and to the point. If there's something that's happening and you don't feel comfortable with it, just tell them very short. Please, if you can refrain from that and then move on. One of the criteria that all the referees should be familiar with is the use the ask, tell, caution, yellow card procedure. The center referee should support the SR1. Ensure that they're able to read the situation, know when the SR1 has reached point of no return, meaning, depending on the level of experience, like I said, some of the best games I've ever had was because of the SR1. He handled everything for me. He or she handled everything for me. And I can concentrate on the game being the center referee. By the same token, if the SR1 is very weak, then not only do you have to concentrate on the game, but you also have to concentrate on the technical area. Because as we all know, the way the coaches and the bench area goes is how the game's going to go, because it influences the team members out on the field. Acknowledge the situation. Other responsibility of the center referee is acknowledge the coach. If the coach is, talking to you, acknowledge him. It's all about communication. The more you ignore a coach, the more hostile he's going to become. You can use the flyby approach. Hey, coach, I hear you. I got it. Take ownership of issues. Coach, I hear you. I'll, look into it. Communicate with the coach. Communication, communication, communication. That's the key to managing not only the technical area, but it's also managing the game. State your expectations. Coach, you need to calm down. Coach, you need to compose yourself. Coach, your system, coach, control them. So state what your expectations are and hold the coach responsible. One thing that's important is that's why on the coin flip, you should be dealing with the head coach. And that's the only person you should be dealing with throughout the whole game. All the assistant coaches and all the bench personnel, as far as we're concerned, they're irrelevant. The person that you should be dealing with is the person that's responsible for the team, and that is the head coach. If you do need to communicate with a coach, it is important, and I've learned this from experience, have one of your officials by your side, because as we all know, there could be discrepancies as to the recollection of what was discussed. So if you're there and you're another official is there with you, they can't really dispute what you've said to them, because there have been situations where they said, well, this is what the center referee said. And the center referee says, no, that's not what I said. And I have my side referee to validate that. So that's why it's important. Have one of your officials by your side when you communicate on a hot confrontational issue with a coach. Also, if you say you're going to do something, do it. If you say, by the way, the next time that assistant coach goes off, I'm going to card him. Card him. It shows that you are in control of the game and you're managing the game and you're setting expectations. Anytime you communicate with someone in a confrontational perspective, keep it short. Confrontation has a higher chance of increasing the longer the game is suspended. During the game, the ask, tell, caution, settle process. I'm assuming that all the referees on this webinar are familiar with this. It's a process of going through this, and it starts to escalate. Okay. And the reason we use this process is for officials to manage the behavior within the technical team area. If you think about it, this is very similar to persistent infringement among players. If you call a foul and the player does it again, we usually communicate and say, by the way, that's your second foul, no more, cut it out. Well, the ask, tell, caution, settle process is similar to that. Okay. You're asking someone to refrain from certain behavior. The next step, if they haven't refrained from that, is you're going to tell them, Coach, I asked you. Now, Coach, now I'm telling you, please refrain from this behavior. If they do it a third time, show a yellow card because they're not listening. Hopefully, when you show the yellow card, it will strengthen your resolve and let them know that, hey, I have to bring my behavior and or whoever my bench personnel's behavior into line. The last thing we do is a send off, and we'll be discussing that in more depth later. Remember, it's not ask, tell, 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 because the more telling you do, the less effective it is. Now, like I said, you empower the SR1. Now remember, if they're doing the diagonal, it's whoever the bench side referee is. They will determine the utilization of the tell step has been insufficient and moves to the caution step and notifies the referee. How does he notify the referee? By displaying the yellow card. Everybody on the team should know, yellow card's been shown. And the next step is it could lead into a send-off disqualification process. In that case, the center referee should approach the technical team area and warn the coach that any further irresponsible behavior can result in a disqualification from the game. Usually that calms them down. If it doesn't, then we got bigger issues. If you are thinking about disqualifying or sending off someone on the bench personnel, please consider consulting with your crew. And why is that important? If you're going to send someone off, you're going to have to do something that we all love. It's called the FHSAA 86 UC report. So make sure that all your crew members are in agreement on the circumstances, because in all likelihood, someone from FHSAA will be contacting the crew and asking for their input. So it's better to have all your circumstances laid out and everybody knows exactly why you're going to be handing out a red card. I recommend that if you are going to be sending out giving out a disqualification red card, the center referee should do the send-off. Don't put that pressure on the SR1. Now, during the game, there are certain things that you don't have to wait. I mean, it can go straight to red card. And it's no different. If you look at the next couple of items, these are the things that we red card players for immediately. Exhibiting violent conduct. There's no need to ask, tell, caution. You go straight to a red card. Taunting. You should all sound familiar. A subsequent caution. Now, on a subsequent caution, remember, on team coaches and bench personnel, in Florida, we have a unique process for players and substitutes. If they get a second yellow, we show the yellow card first, and then we show a blue card. The blue card is the equivalent of a red card, but you don't have to file a report with FHSAA. The team plays short. It is in fact a red card, but it doesn't require all the record keeping. It is different for bench personnel because they're being held at a higher standard. So if you're going to give out a second subsequent, caution, show the yellow card first and then show the red card. And and again, if you look at this list, this is similar to what we send players off immediately for red card. Spitting, using insulting, offensive, or abusive language or gestures, leaving the team area to enter the field where a fight or altercation is taking place. Okay. I do recommend that if a fight breaks out, the first thing you should do is ask the coaches, go break up the fight. Don't get involved with the fight. And by all means, never, ever touch anyone at all, at any point during the game. So let the coaches, sort that out if that ever happens in your game. This is important. If a coach and adult bench personnel are disqualified, sent off, a red card is shown, and they must leave the vicinity of the playing area. Do not start the game until this has been complied with. Players, substitutes, or other students that are bench personnel, they're restricted to the team area. Do not let those kids leave the team area because you'll get in trouble for that also. But if you're an adult, if they are adults, they got to leave the vicinity. What that means is you got to stop the game and you got to wait until you no longer see them. They have to be gone. And if you have any questions about that later on, feel free. I just hope the sun stays up because it's getting darker and darker here. Post game, you have to complete your administrative duties. The most important thing to do is, as a referee crew, is come together on the field, come together. I always tell people this, in a soccer game, I only have two friends, and you know who they are. It's your other two referees. Confirm game information with SRs. If you give out cautions, if your association requires you to report cautions and so forth, always check to make sure that you have the right numbers and the right people and so forth. Okay. Depart the field together immediately as a team. I always use the verbiage, let's get out of Dodge as quickly as possible. Because no good is going to come about you hanging around in the game, especially if it's a heated game. You might have to deal with further misconduct. And we'll cover that in one of the review questions. Disqualifications sent off for non-playing personnel should be written as stated in NFSA soccer rules. And by all means, if you don't do this within 24 hours, FHSAA is going to say, where's our report? So make sure that you do it. Like I always tell people, you always have to do paperwork. So don't forget to do the paperwork. Nowadays, it's all digital, but you still got to do it.
Hey, Gil, we did have a question. Do you want to take it now or do you want to take it later?
Yeah, I can take it now. It's a great break right now.
Okay, so they said that the guidebook states coach or bench personnel must leave the premises if given a red card. Can you explain what constitutes the premises?
Well, it said the book says they have to leave the vicinity. So they can go into the parking lot as long as you don't see them. Okay. And they're not able to communicate with the team. I've had a situation once where I could tell the assistant coach was talking to the head coach. He was probably out in the parking lot looking at the game, but you can't see them. So I told the assistant coach, stop communicating with the coach or otherwise this game will be suspended. And he complied.
Okay, that was the only question we have so far.
Okay. Now, this video is an actual high school video. And let me preface it by saying this is not our association. I got this video sent to me by someone. I don't know if it's a game up north, because if you notice, they're all wearing gloves and so forth and so on, or it might be some Floridians that if it goes below 40 degrees, they're freezing. So, but I want you to watch this video and look at the behavior and how the referee crew is addressing, which is clearly, I would classify as irresponsible behavior on the bench area. Right there, that should be your first signal that coach is upset with something. He's pointing one way, the other referee's pointing the other way, and look his reaction. If you look, the coach is in the penalty arc. There's an injured player. He's not addressing the injured player. He's looking over at the referees. Actually, the referee is doing something smart. He's going to his only other friend on the field. He's communicated with him, and he has offered him information. You see where the coach is. He's not even attending to his injured player. Now, do you think this coach is outside of his technical area, team area? What do you think? Is he on the field? SR1 should be addressing this. Is SR1 helping the center referee? You hear the fans. As the coach reacts, the fans react. I don't know if you heard, I heard it loud and clear. The coach yelled out, "Are you kidding me?" Here's the coach again. Composure. Does this referee look like he's under composure?
Gil, just so you're aware, the audio from the video is not coming through to everybody. But the video they can see, it's just the audio is not working.
Okay, well, it was working on my side. I don't know if you heard it on your side.
That's okay. I think most everybody got the gist of the video.
All right, but did they hear my commentary?
They heard your commentary, just not the individual video.
Okay, but that's even better. Okay, because I was hoping the crowd was so insane that I didn't know whether my commentary was getting through. But Again, that video shows you, okay, what happens if you let the coaches basically run the game. The game was being managed by the coach, not by the referee. Also, the side referee wasn't really doing any help to help out the center referee. If you notice, there were times he just walked away. If you're a side referee number one, you are empowered. You are a paid professional. You're getting the same amount of money as the center referee. I implore you, help the center referee so he can focus in, he or her, they can focus in on the game and you focus in on the technical area. We went through the whole process. If you're not sure, you can communicate with the center referee. But the key factor is you need to be able to communicate and control that bench area. Because I wish the audio was playing so you can hear it. As the coach gyrated more and more, you can hear the crowd getting more and more insane. So that's why it's important to manage that area. Now, anytime you do anything, it's all about communication. Communication, communicate, communicate, and communicate. So it's important to establish the rules of conduct that will not be acceptable in the game. Do you think that the referee actually communicated with the coach? No, he started at the very end. And I don't know if you noticed, but when he gave out the yellow card, if you noticed, the coach immediately calmed down. You notice there was no hand raising, the hands went down to the side. The coach was under control. But there are things you can do before you get to that stage, okay? And it's communication, okay? Simple things you could say. I hear you. I understand you, okay? Coach, talk to me. Remember we talked about the head coach? Coach, I will listen to you, but not the rest of the bench. If you're the side referee number one, and the coach is upset about something the center referee said, just say, I will pass this information along. Okay. And just say, the crew will get together at halftime. It's a good time for us to, get together and communicate. Okay. Other things that you could say to a coach is, I know how important this game is to you. It is just as important to us. Okay. We have to own these games. We have to be responsible and we have to be professional. You gotta know when to say this. Be careful. Coach, I understand you're upset, but you need to calm down. You gotta read the coach, okay? And again, these are suggested communications. As always, just go by the scenario and use your judgment. I can see you don't agree with the call, but please settle down. Please stop being so visual. You think that coach from the very beginning, all the way, was he visual? Yes. Talk to me. Don't wave your hands. Just say the ref got it. Give him a chance. Other thing you can say is the ref was there, and remind him, soccer is a game of angles, and we all have different angles. The referee might have seen something that you might not have seen, or vice versa. So, depending on where you're positioning, you might miss something, but it's part of the game. Let the coach know. If one of the assistants is really being irresponsible, just let them know. I'm close to having to take action on this. And hopefully the coach will go over there. We've done this in the past, and the coach has gone over and told the assistant, please, compose yourself. What not to say, okay? Everybody has something called common sense, I hope. I hope you know what not to say or do. Don't curse at a coach. Don't use abusive or insulting language, because that is not going to calm anything down. Don't tell the coach, shut up and sit down. And this is my biggest pet peeve. When a side referee is criticizing the members of the referee team. Hello, you're part of a referee team. Why would you put the team at jeopardy by saying, Well, he doesn't know what he's doing. If you're part of the team, be part of the team. If you're not going to be part of the team, then you should look for another profession. You're not an officiating person. Don't say, I agree, he's having a bad day. Do not attack or criticize the coach or his or her team. Do not, and I see this a lot. Well, I saw the center referee do this, but if I was in that situation, I would have done this. Well, you're just adding fuel to the fire. If you're trying to put out a fire, you don't put out a fire by throwing gasoline on it. So what in effect, when you say these type of comments, you're adding fuel to the fire. Okay. By all means, never make physical contact with anyone. Don't issue threats. Use phrases that invite further debate or negative discussion. And there are a multitude of excuses why people don't want to manage the team area. They want to be friends with the bench personnel. They're afraid to address it for lack of, confidence. They don't want to invite confrontation. Well, guess what? By becoming a referee, you are a figure authority. And if there's going to be confrontation, they're going to come to you. So if you don't have the, I call it skin to be a referee, then you should think about doing another profession. Okay, because it could be the best game in the world. Remember, there's a winning team and a losing team. The winning team is going to be very happy with you, and the losing team might not be so happy. And worst case scenario, you might have people that are not, well put together that might really give you a hard time. Okay, you don't want to be the bad guy. You're intimidated by the coaches. You feel that, well, if I deal with this guy and I give him a yell and then I get, and I tell the referee, I'll never come back here again. Well, guess what? That is your job. It is your duties as an official to manage the game in accordance with NFHSS mechanics and protocol. You're afraid you'll see the coach again. You might feel that it's the referee's game. No, it's the crew's game. The crew manages the game, not the center referee, not the side referee 1, and not the side referee 2. It's the whole crew. They manage the game. Now we're going to go through some review questions. I kind of gave you the answer to this one too. The responsibility for managing the technical area falls on which member of the referee crew? The center? Yeah. The side referee 1? Yes. Side referee 2? Yes. Believe it or not, because if you're going to give out a red card, you all guys better be together. So all of the above. And by the way, when you take the FHSA test, if there's 2 answers that are correct and you're not sure about the third one, always answer all of the above. Which of the following is not recommended for a referee to say a coach? Shut up and sit down, or please compose yourself, if you know the answer to that. The term bench personnel refers to which of the following? Coaches, managers, and trainers? That sounds good. Coaches, managers, trainers, substitutes, and spectators within the technical area? Yeah. Caveat. If you start a game and there are people sitting in the technical area that are not on the roster, you are still responsible for those people. So that is why it's important. Before the game starts, look at the roster, and if they're not on the roster, tell them to go sit somewhere else. And I know in certain associations, they have back-to-back games. One of the things I've noticed is if it's a boys game first and then there's a girls game, the boy players want to sit in the technical area. We say no, go sit up in the stands. Because whoever is sitting in that technical area, you are responsible for them. So, be cognizant of that. Can you still disqualify, send off, that is, show a red card to a coach or a bench personnel after the completion of a game? No, the game is over, right? Or yes, if it is still in the vicinity of the field. The correct answer is yes, if it's still in the vicinity of the field. You can still issue out red cards. And that's it, Taylor.
Thank you so much for all of that you did tonight, Gil. It looks like we have a comment. Doesn't seem like a question, but more so a comment from Mike. A coach recently told me he fired an assistant coach based on the comments he heard of the recording of his bench that was mic'd up. What this told me is it means anything our officials say near the technical area may also be recorded, which is a possibility. The mic'd up situations have become more common in sports, especially in high school sports now, since it's all the rage with professional sports. So you always do have to be aware of your surroundings, even if you may not realize it. And then there's another question.
Well, Taylor, before you go up on that.
Go ahead.
I know in our association, all the high schools have video. So when I was the president of our association and the president now, anytime there's some sort of controversial issue, they send us the videos right away. And I can guarantee you they send them to FHSAA also.
We definitely get a lot of those videos. We did have another question. It says that, is it our responsibility as officials to say who can sit in the tech area?
Yes, if they're on the roster, they can sit in the tech area. Okay, that means you are responsible for them. Once they're sitting in the tech area, if they're acting irresponsibly, irresponsible behavior, then you got to deal with them. But if they're on the roster, you can't say, no, you can't sit here.
Okay. And then another question, what happens if a coach follows you to the parking lot and complains? Well, I can answer that. That's definitely needs to be reported to the state. We don't take those matters lightly at all. It is the responsibility of coaches to go to their respective locker rooms or go elsewhere from our officials. So if that happens, that is an immediate ejection, even if it is out after the game, and that is a 86 that needs to be sent to our office.
Yes, that's why it's important after the game is over. Remember, I talked about get out of Dodge. When I say get out of Dodge, I mean as a crew. And usually, if we know it's going to be a hot contested game, we all park in the same area and we all park facing out so we can get out of their parking spot quicker.
Yes, we always tell our officials, get up and get gone as soon as you can, because that's the less confrontation you can't have confrontation if you're not there. So
exactly.
That looks like all.
And Taylor, one other thing, we were involved in a game where not only was there confrontation after the game, but it wasn't even with the referees. And they wanted the referee crew to validate what had happened afterwards. And we said, well, we weren't there. So how can we validate anything? We were gone because apparently something else happened. So it is very important that you leave. When your game is done, get together, pack up, and get out of Dodge.
Yeah, once that time expires, any issues that are on the field that are happening between the team or whatever is the administrator on duty's responsibility. It is not your responsibility. Paul asked, again with responsibilities, Paul asked, during an on-field fight last year in another sport, I was asked why I didn't get involved to break it up. Officials should not get involved in the middle. Is that correct? Yes.
Well, if you heard my presentation, you don't touch anyone. You do not get in the middle of a fight. Just stay away. And referees, you should have in your pregame cover fights. We usually tell, the center referee will just step back, start taking numbers. The side referee one, or whoever's the bench referee, is supposed to make sure that no one comes off the benches, tell them stay, stay, stay. And side referee comes in and as an additional record keeper as who's throwing punches and so forth. The most important thing is tell the coaches, get out there and break up the fights.
Yes,
don't
that
get
is
involved.
their responsibility.
Exactly.
If you were to get hurt during something like that, we don't want something that you should be stepped back from for you to potentially get hurt from. That's the last
Well,
thing.
the other thing also is, like I said, there's no video cameras anymore, right? They're all over the schools. If you think you're not being videotaped, you're being naive. And now that you told me that they actually have mic up in the technical area, that's even more important why you bring another referee with you to talk. Um, the point is just be professional, maintain your composure. If you are the calming effect, you're supposed to be the calming effect. Don't let the storm erupt around you. Calm it down.
Agreed. Looks like we got a couple more. What if on the test you get a question that you know the answer is a blue card, but the book doesn't talk about the blue card and your options are blue, red, yellow? Which do you select?
Well, since we're taking the test in Florida, and you should be reading, there's the 20, for anybody, go on the Central Hub. You can download the 2021-22 FHSA Officials Guidebook. In the Officials Guidebook, it goes through all the different scenarios as to when you hand out a blue card. Also, there was a gentleman last year that gave an excellent presentation on when you give out blue cards. And that's also on the Central Hub. I hope you haven't taken that down because he did a great job.
All of them from last year should still be up.
Right. When you take the test, it clearly states, this test is given in Florida. So guess what? You better know the Florida rules because you can't go by the NFHSS because Florida has changed some of these things. And the thing I like about the blue card, I remember when they first came out with it, people were arguing, they're really destroying the game and so forth and so on. And I said, guys, what are you complaining about? A blue card is the equivalent of a red card. What's even more important is you don't have to fill out a report.
That is absolutely correct. A few more questions here. What is the limit at which point you say enough with the criticism or with dissent, I guess?
Ask, tell, caution, follow the process. I know we're not supposed to talk about this, but in some other leagues, they don't even do court. They do ask, tell, send off, but we don't do that here. We give them an extra step.
Yeah, that's definitely up to your discretion. It is again, an official's judgment.
But
Yeah,
remember the ones I showed you, the ones that are straight red cards, like if they spit on you or they curse at you, there is no ask, tell, caution. It's straight red card. It's no different than when you're dealing with a player.
absolutely.
Okay, so keep that in mind.
This one's easy. It says, can a coach go to the stands after being sent off?
No.
An absolute no.
No.
They need to get completely out of the vicinity.
Right.
And then last one, it says you suggested that the center ref issue red cards. Aren't the 3 equal refs on the field?
Yes, but some referees are more equal than others. The reason the center referee is the center referee is hopefully he is the most experienced referee. He has tenure and he is the calming effect. Do you really want to place the side referee in that position? And again, I said it's recommended. I didn't say, so I personally, like I tell people, I did a presentation last year and it had to do with the dual system. Referees, we got to check our egos at the door. We're all part of a team.
So it looks like that's all the questions that we had so far. That one was more of a comment. Thank you, Gail. We'll allow a few more minutes if anybody does have any last minute questions. But
I apologize. It is really dark in here. Thank God for my little emergency flashlight.
Hey, you are making it. You are a superstar right now, making it work with no power.
And thank God for my
your hotspot.
exactly.
Yeah, that's superstar status right there. So thank you again, Gil, for taking your time and working with the situation that you have to come and present with us. It looks like we had one more question. How do we deal with schools with technical areas that cannot be 10 feet away from the field? That's a good question.
You mean 10 yards from the halfway line? Well, remember, the benches, that's what's important. Make sure those benches are 10 yards away from the halfway line. And before the game starts, let them know. See where your bench is? I'm going to give you 5 yards on one side of your bench and 5 yards on the other side of your bench. That is their technical area. Okay? If you leave that area, we're not going to be happy. If you saw in the video, that coach, my God, was he in this technical area? You didn't even see the team. He was so far down the field. And the SR1 should have dealt with that immediately.
Okay, a few more rolled in. If a player makes a foul and I give the advantage, I have to give a yellow card at the first stop? Question mark.
Well, if in your opinion, the foul that was committed was a cardable offense and you say play on, okay. Usually what we tell our members is look at the person that committed the foul and you're yelling play on and say, number 12, I'll be back for you. That's letting him know. And it also helps you because if you say the number, you'll remember 12, I'm coming back for you. Let the play on go on. If at that stoppage, come back and deal with number 12.
And last question, what if a coach wants to be ejected?
Well, hey, if he wants to be ejected, let's comply.
Agreed. Okay, so we've almost hit 7 o'clock, so we don't really want to keep anybody longer than necessary. Had great conversation. Good job, guys and girls on the call. Thank you, Gil, again. I'm not sure if there's any more scheduled for soccer for this season so far, but again.
Oh, okay, yeah, for soccer. I know there's a webinar on Friday, but I guess it's not open to the general public, or is it?
For the evaluators.
No, I don't know what it was. It's something.
I'll jump in there real quick. It's a rules change webinar that is open for anyone that wants to attend.
Okay, thank you, Alex.
So yes, on Friday there will be a rule change webinar. Anybody that is interested can register for that. Other than that, I don't have anything else for the group. Thank you for your time. And this will be on the central hub for anybody to access later. Give us about 24 hours to get it up there. But if you want to reference his presentation again, this will be available for everybody.
And if anybody does not live in New Tampa, let me know what's going on, because we have no power.
Yes, it's all
Thank you very much.
Power back. But thanks, everybody. Hope you have a wonderful night.
Good night. Bye-bye.
Good night.